get to number 3, prophecy. Understanding prophetic words, understanding prophecy. It's not words of wisdom, and it's not words of knowledge. Now, these may all intertwine in one download from God. He may give you the word of knowledge, which gives you wisdom, which then allows you to prophetically speak into someone's life, okay? They're not the same thing, though. The Lord was really clear. You need to delineate what people are doing, because what we've got is we got a lot of people who are prophetically speaking, and they're doing it in a manner that's preventing people from receiving what's being given. It's starting to go there. And so the Lord said, you just need to teach them, train them, get them full of the understanding that I've given you, and the wisdom that He's given me concerning. Nobody's taught me about this stuff. You know, I go to the Lord and He begins to reveal it. Have I read books on prophecy? Yes. Some of that from that? Absolutely. But then it's like, what do we need now? This is what we need right now. We got to understand the prophetic. Because if we're going to have a prophetic culture, right, that's using these prophetic giftings consistently, we got to do it balanced, and we need to do it right. If we get unbalanced and we're just spouting off stuff, we're crazy. Because we're given words that make no sense to nobody because we got a thing that we heard from the Lord.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yeah.
What are dreams playing into this?
Well, dreams are generally personal. Even when you have dreams for other people, like with other people in them, they're usually saying something about you.
And they can be prophetic, but they're usually...
Hey, hang on just a second. What was that?
I said, and they can be prophetic, but they're usually just suppressed emotions. I've studied dreams.
But you gotta go back to Joel.
Yes. Dreams, and so majority of dreams that people have, when I talk to people who share with me their dreams, which I get them all the time,
It's about you. They're always about you.
it's almost always about them to a certain point. Now there's some things where they're like, and this person said this thing, and there's this interaction that happens, and I'm like, well, you need to go share that with that person. Because it may have some relevance and it may minister to them. It may. Like, I'm not saying it's 100% always just for you. It may be for other people, but generally, search your own heart first with dreams. That's my first thing. Like, Lord, what did you have for me in that? Maybe I was confronting somebody on their sin, and it was actually I was confronting myself, and I didn't realize it. So we got to be careful with that stuff. Brandon, what were you saying? All right, sweet. All right. So, prophecy speaks to what?
The future?
Future. We are so focused in our culture right now, our prophetic, what we call prophetic, is all focused on now.
Is that now or new?
Now. It's a really bad vote. Alright? Here, I'll make it a little harder for you.
Oh, I
Now.
love you too.
It's about the future. Okay, let me say it again. It's about the future. If it's about now, it's a word of wisdom or a word of knowledge. Alright? Got it? Okay. If it's about now, it's a word of wisdom and a word of knowledge. If it's about the future, it is prophetic. What will they talk about? What does prophecy talk about? And the things that the Lord wanted us to know about this right now is it talks specifically, should be able to prophesy over people's circumstances, character, vision/calling. circumstances, character, vision, or calling.
What? Thank you, Joel.
So Joel, the guitar player, God gave me a word of knowledge that he was giving Joel a foundation in his faith where he's at with Pastor Aaron right now. Okay, he's given him a foundation, has a word of knowledge. The Lord's giving you a firm foundation right now. Okay, that's a word of knowledge. That's not prophetic. Now, then he says, gives me a word of wisdom. The word of wisdom was, if you're willing to submit yourself fully to the will of God in your life right now, that's the wisdom, then God will launch you into the full-time ministry He's called you to. Prophetic. Prophetic words almost always point to the God-given outcomes and activities. All right, I'll read this again so you guys can get this. Prophetic words should usually point to the God-given outcomes and activities that He wants to produce in someone. Prophetic words should usually point to the God-given outcomes and activities that He wants to produce in someone. Isn't it interesting that the word that we just read a little while ago said that, why is prophecy so important?
It edifies.
Edifies?
the body.
What else does it do? Exhorts. What was the third one? Edifies.
Encourages.
Comfort. We're almost done. Edifies, encourages, and exhorts. Or comforts and exhorts. You know, when you receive the revelation of God's divine purposes for your future, it should exhort you with a level of conviction about how you're getting there. The revelation of what God has in store for you in the future should cause you to change where you're at now, because you're not there, are you? Mm-hmm. Right? If we were there, we wouldn't need a prophetic word, would we? So it exhorts us to be better. You know what it also does is it edifies us, because we go, Jeremiah 29:11, I have a future and I have a hope. And sometimes all we need to know is that God has a plan for us, and that's comfort.
Yeah.
It's comfort. Because we don't see it. We don't see it. And we just say, you know what, Kim, God has called you to da-da-da-da, you know, man, and we just prophesy. Dragons and butterflies all over Kim. And you know what? When she needs comfort, she needs to remember she's got that thick skin of a dragon. The prophetic word brought her comfort. See, we also miss it because we're looking for immediate interpretation. We're looking for immediate results. We got to stop. It's prophetic because it's in the future. Linda dancing. I've been under there a long time. See, can I be really clear? A vision is a vision. It's not prophetic. It may be a word of knowledge. It could be a word of wisdom. I've gotten visions that have accomplished all three, but they're just visions. We have to look at these prophetic things like visions and dreams, and when God gives us a download that He's like, it's got to come out, and we just spit it out, right? We need to learn how to operate in a way that allows people to receive it. So can we get some real simple tools for how can we have a prophetic word? How can we bring comfort to people's hearts prophetically using these prophetic gifts? Number one thing that you have to do is always ask questions to confirm the vision. Ask questions to confirm it. So, for example, I was at a prayer thing, and I saw this gal writing a book. And I went up to her and I said, hey, you're going to author a book someday. Wrong. I blew it. She's like, I hate writing and I'm never going to write a book. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I needed to say, are you a writer? God showed me you writing a book. Are you a writer? No, I have no idea why you want me writing a book. Or do you journal? Anything? I made an assumption that she was going to write a book. I blew it. I mean, she couldn't receive what I was trying to give her because she thought I was an idiot. We've been going up and bringing our interpretations to people, and they're looking at us like, who are you? Ask questions. For example, Donna, if you don't mind, I'll use you for example today with Stella. You have the vision of the kids around the chair. Well, you know, I know you may play music, but do you play music for kids? Yeah, I've got 3 amazing children who are very musically talented. She's got 3 kids who are amazingly musically. Clay is 5, and he's playing piano on his own with no lessons, and he's playing Jesus culture stuff. Almost 9, I mean, sorry. Rachel's 5, sorry. So he's almost 9, and he's just playing it just because he's born with that gift. Well, that could have meant so many different things. But we've got to get people in a place where they can receive what we're giving. So we ask questions, and then they go, oh yeah, I've got 3 wonderful kids that I love to play music for. Well, I saw you sitting in front of a group of kids playing da-da-da-da-da. And then she's like, oh, she's engaged in the word of the Lord. So she can receive it.
Well,
and she may say, I would never going to teach a kids class on worship. Or I'm just using this as an example. Okay, I'm not saying anything about it. I thought it was fine.
Well,
I didn't see that there was any
It
problem.
was completely blank, but I saw what I saw and I shared it, and if she doesn't receive it, it's her deal. I mean, you know, because...
So basically, she may in the future get that edification, but what he's saying is just to get someone engaged in the conversation, get them on aligned with the Holy Spirit so they can receive it and be like, oh.
Right, because that's the point anyways.
Because you know what you're going to end up doing? You're going to end up saying, well, if they just don't receive it anyways, then no one will ever listen to you. No one's going to care about what vision you saw or what you heard because they've gotten these, and I'm not saying this about you, I'm just saying in general, that when we keep getting these things, and we're not engaged and they don't make sense to us, we shove them to the side.
And
God may bring it right back later on, and that's great. I had a gal prophesy over me for about 10 minutes, and I got one thing out of everything that she said. There was one thing that went, goo, hit me right in the chest. And I was like, wow, that's huge. I don't remember the rest of the stuff that she said over the 10 minutes. The one thing I remembered was the one thing that she asked me a question about. You watch Matt Wakefield, a prophet, a man of God who reads people's mail. Okay? Like, you don't get it, you don't bluff a man of God like that. Matt Wakefield's Tracy's associate. So Matt is here and he's praying for someone who's been abused as a child, saying, you need to forgive this person. You know what God did is gave Matt the first and the last name of the abuser, of this person that he's never even met. It says, you need to forgive this, first name, last name. Crumple. Person's lost it. Oh, that's operating in words of knowledge. Why? To bring healing. Come on. But let me tell you, the first thing that he did, have you ever had any issues with sexual trauma as a child? The Lord gave him the word, and if he didn't ask that question, you want to know how many defensive walls would have been up? If he had said, hey, you need to forgive the person who abused you as a child. Who are you to, oh man, that is sensitive space. We need permission to enter. If you don't ask questions, you don't have permission. You're just throwing stuff out there. So if you got to ask the question in order to get permission to go in. Because if you don't ask, you don't have permission. Right? This is just common courtesy stuff, right?
I see this, like the Holy Spirit works, I always see it coming in this direction.
Right, okay.
And so when you engage them, the Holy Spirit starts to flow through them. And so it's coming from right here rather than at them.
Yes.
And because
That's good.
Say he just said, you need to forgive this person without saying anything, engaging them through the Spirit flow.
Right, that's great.
The person
That's
would
great.
have gone like this.
Like this. Yes.
And
if it came
blocked the
smack
whole
up there like
purpose
that,
of
that's excellent. I'm trying to get the visual on the video camera so people can see that, what you're talking about there. So you're absolutely right, because if we just are giving it and we haven't engaged them and they haven't been open,
It's
then
coming from us.
it's coming from. So we ask the question. For example, if I say, hey Debbie, I see you on this pontoon boat floating on a lake. She's like, yeah, I got a pontoon boat and I float on a lake. Whoop-de-doo. Do you own a boat? Yeah, I own a boat. Is it a pontoon boat? Yeah, it's a pontoon boat. Have you ever been on it with just like 4 of you and your family? And it took her right to the happiest moment of her life. The most treasured moment that she'd ever had. It took her right to that place just by asking the questions. If I just gave what I saw, she wouldn't have received it. And it would have been like, oh, that's a nice thought. Are you hearing it? Yeah. Ask questions. Young man up here last night, I thought I saw him kind of sliding along like it was on a skateboard or snowboard or something. He was just cruising. I did ask him, are you a skater? He said, no. Do you snowboard? No. I'm like, I don't know what this is then, because I just saw you sliding by. Do. He's like, oh, that's weird. I'm like, oh, that's weird. If I had tried to interpret that as if he was going to be a pro skater someday. Yeah. What? I hate skateboards. You're a false prophet. Come on. Because guess what? If I'd said that, it wasn't the Lord. It was me. Ask questions. Instead of just prophetically puking on people. I mean that it's happening. Throughout the body of Christ, all over the world right now. And we need skills to do it in a manner that allows people to receive what God has in store for them. The only reason why God gives you a word of wisdom or a word of knowledge or anything like that is so that they can be healed, so that they can receive a miracle, and so that they can fulfill their destiny. It's not about us. Ever. Now, always ask questions to confirm the vision, word, or insight. I left that whole skating thing alone. I said, this is what I saw. You know what else I saw was that you've got a lot of strength. Do you lift weights? It's like, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, here's the thing that the Lord showed me about your strength. You know? And that was that. I hope it blessed them.
I think it's the permission part that is so important that we kind of phase over, because God doesn't violate that in us.
Absolutely.
And so when we ask the question, it gives them the opportunity to get into the flow, and then we give permission if we're the receiver, then we can receive.
That's right.
It could already be like this.
Like whenever you're in counseling, there are certain steps that you take to gain a person's trust, so that they'll feel comfortable to tell you what's going on, so that you can help to bring healing and understanding to what happened. And that's basically what you're doing in a 5-second window.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing it in a supernatural way so that God can bring, He's using you to be their counselor, to give them a word that will bring healing to them.
Yes. And some of us, when we first get this prophetic gift, we start getting dreams, start getting visions, we just want to share it. Because we're so excited, because we are getting dreams, we're getting visions, and God's using me prophetically, so I'm going to give you yours, and I'm going to give you yours, and I'm going to give you yours. And we're all looking around going, oh my goodness, what just happened? We got to ask questions. Because, you know what, it's not about us giving it, ever. It always has to be about them receiving it. This is a huge part of my book that I'm writing right now on receiving the revelation of God. Because if we don't take the proper steps to help people receive, we're not playing our part.
You're working against God.
Well,
against
I wouldn't go that far. Because God will still supersede our ignorance
But
and
I mean, you're
inaccuracies
working
and
against God
ineptness.
for
I mean,
you, not for that person
Right,
necessarily. Do you see
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But it's a kingdom principle, and that's
that's
when
right.
we want to create a kingdom environment, then we got to come into an agreement with the kingdom way, which would never violate, you know, the autonomy really of another person.
Now, the one exception I'll say to that is with demonic possession.
Right.
I will
Okay.
absolutely violate someone's personal rights if a demon manifests.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
Different
done.
thing. Yeah.
That's my one exception to that. And someone being funny or a bad personality doesn't mean they're demon possessed, okay?
Like, how do you differentiate between demon possession and someone who's not? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm saying how,
That's what I'm
Discerning of
asking.
spirits.
where you.
That's a gift of discerning of spirit. Good, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, no, go ahead. I forgot what
You're asking the difference, or the question about clarifying what?
I forgot what
No, it'll come back to you.
Yeah.
We have to be very careful to filter our gifts through the heart of Scriptures. Through the heart of Scripture. Why does 1 Corinthians sit between all the spiritual gift chapters? 1 Corinthians 13 is on love. It sits in the middle of the gifts because without love it will hurt people.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
About the whole. Also, if we're just going around just randomly saying, you know, words of knowledge or da 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 whatever, without checking it first, without having a filter for it,
Yeah.
could it possibly lead to like haughtiness?
Pride?
And being, I know this about this person, da 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 da.
Absolutely.
So basically, you're giving yourself a filter to keep you humble so that you can continue hearing from the Word.
Absolutely. And some people are just very insightful observers that think they're prophets.
Oh, that's sick.
Exactly. They pick up on someone's, their body language. The Lord's telling me that you're really offended right now. So you're sitting there like this. I'm like, the Lord just showed me that you're really offended right now, and I just believe that God wants to heal you of that. No kidding. Thanks for the word of the Lord. No, that's scripture. That's a biblical principle that's clearly seen by someone going like this. Yes, God wants to heal them. You're not a prophet like the Lord showed you this. No, I see people all the time where I'm like, hey, are you offended right now? Are you really having a hard time with that? What am I doing? I'm asking the question first. Second thing I'm doing is I am not assuming that I know. Stop assuming that you know what's going on. You don't know what's going on in any individual's life ever. Ever, ever, ever. The problem with assuming is that we got somebody, two people, a guy and a woman, they were sitting together who are just friends, and we prophesy, you guys are going to have a marriage for years. We don't know them. We never met them. We prophesied over them, and then they're like, we both have different boyfriends and girlfriends, and we're just here as friends. What do? The Lord just said we were going to be married for years and years. Ah! No! We assume too much. We can't assume that we know what is going on in relationships, what is going on, and the Lord may say, wow, they're going to be together for a long, like there's a bond there. It may just be friendship. It may be nothing romantic. But and oftentimes we speak out of our own weaknesses where we wish we had a romantic interest, and so we'll say, you guys are going to be romantic forever. Because our flesh is speaking instead of the Spirit of the Lord. Number one, ask questions. Number two, do not assume to know. Do not assume. We know in part, right? The Word says that we know in part and we prophesy in part. Right? We don't know. Don't think you do. And the thing that you knew may be right, but don't assume. Don't assume. I have to be very careful with Brandon on this because of our relationship and the friendship and the mentorship and the pastor-disciple role that him and I have. We're more friends than we are anything else. Right? I mean, more than I'm his pastor. It's hard for him to kind of see me as his pastor because we were friends for years before I was ever a pastor. That's just difficult for us. But I can't assume that if Brandon's doing something or I can't assume that I know what he's doing. I can't. Guess what I have to do? Ask the questions. And sometimes it bugs him. Because he's like, dude, you know what? I'm like, I'm not going to assume. And you know what? It strengthens our relationship. Why? Because every time I ask, guess what he gets to build with me? And I with him trust. He gets to trust me a little bit more, and I get to trust him a little bit more. Every single time. Number 3. Okay, number 1. What's number 1?
Always ask questions.
Ask questions. What's number 2?
Don't assume to know.
Don't assume. Number 3. Only share what you saw or heard from the Lord. Only share what you saw or heard from the Lord. Nothing more, nothing less. The rule here, and I guess I know I don't like using the word rules, but this is a good guideline to use, And if you want to think of them as rules and you are willing to follow the rules, you will be very successful in your prophetic ministry. Okay? I'll just tell you that. The rule here is don't interpret. Don't ever say, and this means this. They may be processing it and you're like, yep, that's what it means. But that's not what it meant. The Lord's got them on a path of revelation. I give this example of a school of ministry that Bethel taught, where a gal was going to be the topic of everyone's prophetic giftings. Right? They were going to have open access to read her mail prophetically, right? So she has a son. I know you've heard this before, Donna. She said she had a son who's has had some form of cancer. And she's like, she walks in, she says, I'm going to wear a green shirt today. And I'll know that it's the Lord if someone says you're wearing a yellow shirt. That was her test, to see if someone was actually hearing from God or not.
That's basically asking the Lord to lie.
No, just to make a statement. Okay, but see, this is the funny thing. It's like putting a fleece on the ground, is what she was doing. She's like, Lord, I'm going to test this today. And if someone says, she says, Lord, if someone says that I'm wearing a yellow shirt, you are telling me you are going to heal my son. No one could interpret that or assume it or come up with that because she was wearing a green shirt. So, the whole place goes through and each of them prophesy over her and then they have to judge the words as to whether or not they were real or not. And it's all over. And she never heard it. And she's frustrated. And the guy standing in the back says, I've been fighting this all day, but I got to tell you, you're wearing a yellow shirt. And for the first time all day, she responds emotionally, clearly hearing an answer from the Lord. And everybody's confused. They don't know, like, okay, no, you're not. But she's bawling because he says she's wearing a yellow shirt. Are you kidding me? What's going on here? Well, and during all of that, she's bawling her eyes out and she's crying her guts out. And the guy's like, because yellow's a sign of the sun. And since yellow's a sign of the sun, it means that, What? He's trying to interpret what it meant. He'd been trying to figure out all day. Lord, why do you want me to tell her that she's wearing a yellow shirt? Why do you want me to tell her this thing? He had no clue. He'd been trying to figure it out all day. In fact, he'd come up with some pretty good ideas of what it meant. So that when he said, you're wearing a yellow shirt, she crumples in a ball and she's crying her eyes out and he's trying to interpret it. He had no clue that she just received a promise from the Lord that her son was going to be healed of cancer. Woo! Only give what God gives you. Don't try and figure it out. Be okay not knowing. It's been fun working with a lot of you in the prophetic because I see some of you are really gifted with this. And you'll give the word. And someone will be like, we didn't ask them anything, so they're confused. They haven't received it yet. Right? Because they're like trying to be polite a little bit. Because they're like, okay, like, I don't know. So now there's this awkward moment. And so we really want to help them understand what we just said. So now we start asking questions to try and interpret instead of having put them in a position to receive it the first time. And then if somebody says, well, I think it might be this. Yep, oh yeah, that's it. And it's not. Only share what God showed you. Okay? Yeah, be careful of your flesh. If you're prophesying about your own sin issues and your own desires, stop. Stop yourself short. It may be the word of the Lord, but you really, hey John, but you really need to be careful with it. You really have to be careful, because what will happen is that you will begin to prophesy all the things that you want into other people. And the prophets have authority. Careful what you say. So here's the deal, guys. We have to be careful with our words. We have to choose them carefully. We may get a sense of direction from the Lord. Can I tell you, if you're going to default, if you're not sure, shut it. If you're not sure, don't say it. Allow the Lord to develop the word in you.